By this time, you should be familiar with my face. Turning my L, also known as the sagent. The sagent is a compound word, and the sage being historically classified, defined as the ones who know. An agent is someone who transacts or conducts business on behalf of another. And I'm here transacting and conducting business on behalf of the highest order, the natural, the divine, the most high. Islam to the Moors. Peace to my American nationals. Assalamu alaikum to my Muslim family who may be watching. Peace to anyone I left out. And well, we on an interesting subject today, and it's the Dred Scott decision. And the Dred Scott decision was a landmark case. Anytime you hear the term landmark, that means it set precedent, not president, President. That's president, somebody who's over a company. We're talking precedent, Precedent, precedent. Okay, so that means, in layman's terms, precedent. This set the tone. This what it is from here on out. Whatever happened before this don't matter no more, because we changing it with this case. Precedent. I'm gonna give it to you where a child can understand it. So today's case is the Dred Scott decision. Okay, and I have this right here. I've been having this for years. So here's the citation to the case if you want to look it up. You know, this is public information. It's not exclusive to me. You don't have to get a hold of me to get this. You can go print it up right off the internet. Dred Scott was a slave in St. Louis, Missouri. Okay? Excuse me, a citizen of the state of Missouri. And he claimed. And a lot of people fail to realize the history or the background of the places they inhabit. Illinois, Missouri, Ohio. That sounds Native American to me. Iowa. That sounds Native American to me. Idaho. That sounds Native American to me. What's the name of that city in Iowa? Sioux Falls. You ever heard of the Sioux Indians? I think it's spelled S-O-U-I-X. Sioux. I'm from Illinois. There's a town called Cahokia. That sounds Native American to me. Does it not? What else sounds Native American as far as the states are concerned? Let's see. Washington. The Washita. Washita is the ancient derivative of Washington, just like Philadelphia was Philadelphia's. Okay? So the history on these places which we inhabit and live in, Oklahoma, we need to know, set the tone for what's going on right now in these same territories or states. Indiana. Indian is the base word of Indiana. If you ain't catch that, I don't know what to tell you. Minnesota. So, okay, let's get straight to it. So, you know, Dred Scott claimed on November 2nd, 1853, he went and filed a complaint against John A. Sanford. Okay, and Dred Scott was from St. Louis in the state of Missouri, and a citizen of the state of Missouri. And this is directly from the case. And he complains that a John F. A. Sanford, so we know initials are no part of a legal name, but that's neither here nor there, of the city of New York and a citizen of the state of New York, in the plea of trespass for that the defendant, which was John F.A. Sanford, on the first day of January 1853, at St. Louis, in the county of St. Louis and state of Missouri, with force and arms, assaulted the plaintiff. He said with force and with arms. So that means while he whooped him, he had the heat. And if anybody ever seen that situation before, a gun checks people's movement. So, in otherwise, and not a high percentage of the time, a man is still going to act in the face of a firearm, but most won't. So, he assaulted the plaintiff and without law or right, held him as a slave and imprisoned him for the space of 6 hours and more. And then there did threaten to beat the plaintiff and to hold him in prison and restraint of his liberty, so that by means of such threats, the plaintiff was put in fear and could not attend to his business, and thereby lost great gains and profits, which he might have otherwise would have made in the prosecution of his business. To wit, $2,500 and other wrongs to the plaintiff then and there did against the peace and to the damage of the plaintiff, $3,000. And in 1853, $3,000 was a nice chunk of change. And he said, also, he assaulted Harriet Scott, then, and still the wife of the plaintiff, which is Dred Scott. And then there did in prison, said Harriet, and sold her as a slave without law for right for the space of 6 hours. Then he threatened to beat his wife. So Harriet was put in great fear and pain and could not attend her business as well. And she claims the same amount. Or he claims the same amount on behalf of her, $3,000. Also, on the same account, Eliza Scott and Lizzie Scott, then and still infant daughters and servants of the plaintiff, Dred Scott, they held them for a space of time, to wit, 6 hours, and threatened them to hold them as slaves and restrain them of their liberty. He claims the same amount of damages for them, $3,000. That's 9,000 right there, because there's 3 counts that he's alleging for 4 people: himself, his wife, and his 2 daughters. Okay? So, let's see the importance of status. Watch it work. Watch why I keep speaking on status. I'm an American national. That's my status. Why is status important? Well, status is important because the defendant, John Sanford, in his own proper person. Hold on. They didn't say that about Dred Scott. He said, Dred Scott of St. Louis in the state of Missouri and a citizen of the state of Missouri. Then they turn around and say that John F.A. Sanford in his own proper person comes and says that this court ought not to have take further cognizance, recognize, of the said action, because the cause of action in every one of them, if any, have accrued to the said Dred Scott, out of the jurisdiction of this court and exclusively within the jurisdiction of the courts of the state of Missouri. For that, to wit, the said plaintiff Dred Scott is not a citizen of the state of Missouri, as alleged in this declaration, but he is a Negro of African descent. His ancestors were of pure African blood and were brought into this country and sold as Negro slaves. And this the said Sanford is ready to verify. Wherefore he prays judgment whether this court can or will take further cognizance of the action aforesaid. So let's rewind the tape. This man, John F.A. Sanford, came in his proper person and said that, well, or implied by that being on the record, that his status was superior to that of Dred Scott. That's what's being implied. He didn't say it, but they let it be known for and on this record that in his own proper person, John F.A. Sanford came before the court And he's saying, Dred Scott, he couldn't be a citizen because he's a slave. And his ancestors were of pure African blood. So that lets us know about the status of Mr. Dred Scott. That lets us know that his status was inferior. He wasn't in his proper status because his ancestors were of African pure blood and he's of African descent. And they were imported into this country. So yeah, that lets us know that you have Africans coming over here. Were these Africans imported with names of European ancestry or parentage? Matumbo Smith. Yeah. Dikembe Jackson. Yeah. Does that sound right? If a Japanese man came to America, his name would resemble or reflect his Japanese parentage or heritage. No Japanese man is going to come from home speaking his natural born language and come to the United States and says, my name is Yokohama Smith. These names that we carry today are not of, are Moorish, are African parentage. Or let's say if you're not Moorish, Asiatic in general. All right? And anything with melanin in it is Asiatic. Period. So he said he was imported into here. He couldn't be a citizen of the state of a citizen of the state of Missouri because he's property. And we all know property is res. Property is a thing. When the government takes action against a piece of property, it's called action in rem. I-N space R-E-M. In rem. Okay? That's a action against property. In rem. So you got Dred Scott, who is a sentient, living, breathing man, trying to exercise rights to a status that he hasn't assumed. Okay? And so basically, in his proper person, John F. Sanford came before the court and challenged the jurisdiction of the court, saying that, hey, dude ain't a citizen. He's property. Okay? So, okay. Let's see. And there's a replication, there was multiple pleas. So what happened is, okay, Mr. Sanford beat, Dred Scott, the so-called Negro or the colored man. He beat John A. Sanford on a local level. John A. Sanford was, F.A. Sanford was quite upset. So he appealed that. And it went to the appellate court, the circuit courts. And Dred Scott, once again, beat him on the appellate level. Now, my man's pulling that ace out of his back pocket. He appealed this all the way to the United States Supreme Court. So it's pretty heavy. Like this real, bro. And John F.A. Sanford pressed the issue of his status because he knew who he was and he knew who Dred Scott was and what status he assumed. And once you know what status you assume and know who you are, you know you can push the issue because can't nobody disprove your claim. So the plea in abatement was that the word citizen in the Constitution does not embrace one of the Negro race. I think they're talking about us. But I'm not a Negro. So we can kind of assume who they were aiming towards with these statuses and names: Negro, colored, African American. Closest you will get to your nationality back in the day was black or more. A Negro cannot become a citizen. A slave not made free by residence in a free state or territory. The Declaration of Independence does not include slaves as part of the people. The rights and privileges conferred by the Constitution upon citizens, lowercase c, do not apply to the Negro race. Constitution should have the meaning intended when it was adopted. Court may examine other errors besides plea and abatement. Constitution expressly affirms the right of property in slaves. The Missouri Compromise unconstitutional and void. So they're letting you know that this Constitution that was drafted in 1776 and the ones before, should be intended what it meant when it was adopted. So at the time that this Constitution was drafted, there were Negroes being held as slaves, while these people were trying to run from another country and declare their independence from a big bad bully, Britain, England. They were enslaving other weak people. That just goes to show you how trauma is passed down. They didn't want to be slaves, but they had slaves. Sounds like a superiority complex to me. It sounds like somebody want to have their cake and eat it too. It sounds like somebody brought sand to the beach. A Negro cannot become a citizen. So this case has not been overturned. They say it has by way of the 14th Amendment, and we'll get to that shortly. So let's see what the word citizen means. And in Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, page 310, we see that the word citizen is a member of a free city or jural society, possessing all the rights and privileges which can be enjoyed by any person under its constitution and government, and subject to the corresponding duties. Citizens are members of a community inspired to common goal who in associated relations submit themselves to rules of conduct for the promotion of general welfare and conservation of individual as well as collective aggregate rights. Aggregate is collective. So they said right here that a citizen, okay, they subject themselves. They subject themselves to the body. They say you're not bigger than a mob. You ain't bigger than the mob. If you come into this public arena, you subject yourself to the public rules. And what are public rules? Statutes. And what are statutes? Acts of the legislator. You kind of see where this is coming from now? You kind of see when you walk into the court, you being charged with compiled statutes because you are out in the public. You subjected yourself to, you submitted yourself to the rules of conduct for the promotion of general welfare. So these rules of conduct are statutes. Out in the public they are. In the private, it's a real law. Public, legal, private, lawful. See the difference? And it says it starts out by saying a citizen is a member of a free city. So they letting you know a Negro cannot become a citizen A piece of property cannot live in a free city because it's not free. Because it's not free. So, before the 14th Amendment, there was no such thing as a United States citizen. There were only state citizens. There were only state citizens in a national government, not a federal, a national government. So, that's why in the Constitution, you'd be like, okay, if the Constitution wasn't meant to include us, well, how are people, Negroes, colored people, going into court claiming to be protected by the Constitution, which does not protect them? The rights and privileges conferred by the Constitution upon citizens do not apply to the Negro race. So how are you going here? According to the First Amendment, I have the right to, according to the Fourth Amendment, I have the right to not be searched or seized without due probable cause. According to the Fifth Amendment, I have due process and I have the right to not incriminate myself. So we got in the Fifth Amendment a due process clause, and then in the 14th Amendment, once again, we see a due process clause. So what's the significance of the 14th Amendment? Well, Ripley's Believe It or Not, believe this or not, the 14th Amendment was created for the people of the colored race. The newly freed slaves, they were just lost. They had to create a new citizenship for these once pieces of property. You got to imagine how the millions of slaves being freed out into a society affects, the operation and the administration of their society. So, if we look at Article 4, Section 2, Clause 1 of the Constitution for the United States of America, it says that the citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. Okay. So they're letting you know that here's a group of citizens in the Fourth Amendment before the 14th Amendment. So these were state citizens. The citizens of each state citizens, shall be entitled to the privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. Is that not it? Did they not say what they meant? So the Constitution should have the meaning intended when it was adopted. So back to my question, how are we using the Constitution to defend us if this has been adjudicated that we are not meant to be protected by it? Because we all know that this Constitution is a public document. We know this Constitution is the laws of their corporate body politic. And even though we're not protected by it, we use the Constitution to hold them to what they said. So I'm not seeking protection from the Constitution. When I'm in battle, I'm not seeking protection unless the odds are against me. So I'm not seeking protection from this public instrument that wasn't meant to include so-called Negroes or people of the colored race. But I'm taking your law and showing it to you. This is what you said, this is what you wrote. So I'm holding you to that. And good thing that your Constitution recognizes rights of people outside of it. Makes sense? So you use the Constitution as a tool in your toolbox. It's not protecting you. It recognizes your rights. And you are showing them that, hey, your Constitution that you sworn oath to recognizes my rights outside of it. Because the Constitution didn't grant me any rights. It just observed these rights. Okay? It observed the rights. So, well, according to the Constitution, I have rights. Hey, bro. Hey, man. Don't come here talking about no Constitution, bro. This court ain't got nothing to do with no Constitution, my boy. It's all civil, maritime, admiralty, private, international, copyrighted law. Bring up that Constitution again if you want to. See, you don't know how to use it. You just pulling out and you spraying everywhere. You got to be tactical. A Marine or Army veteran, once he starts firing his weapon, he ought to be good to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Da, 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 da. In case, or, in certain cases, you can't do that. Too much pressure getting put on. But they're going to count those rounds. So you got to tactically place your rounds. Don't go in there swinging your sword. See what I'm saying? Let the public play lead you to what to say. Let the public play lead you to what to say. Don't go in there trying to dictate the pace. You ain't here to play, but you got to play. It's only in or out one way. Okay, so it's an interesting case that I've been looking at, and it's Susan B. Anthony versus the United States. Now, this is back when, women's suffrage, was going on, and she was a female, and she voted, for a representative in Congress in the United States. And they said, well, female, you're not equal to us men, and only men can vote for congressmen. Okay? She possessed, the qualifications entitling a person to vote at such election, except she was a female. Ooh, I know that put that fire up under your skin for the females who be, you men ain't shit. Nah, but that's kind of crazy. I wouldn't have expected that. So, she was indicted because she knowingly voted at an election without the right to do so. Okay? So, turning to my ear, what does that have to do with these Negroes and this 14th Amendment? And shall we dive in? So, and I quote from Susan B. Anthony versus the United States. And let me see what year this was. June 18th, 1873. All right? So what does the court say? The court says the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments were designed mainly for the protection of the newly emancipated Negroes, but full effect must, nevertheless, be given to the language employed. The 13th Amendment provides that neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for a crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States. And it has a capital U, lowercase n-i-t-e-d, and a capital S-T-A-T-E-S, the United States. And what is the United States according to 28 U.S.C. 3215A? It's a corporation. So it sounds like the corporation is creating a monopoly because slavery, they outlawed slavery and involuntary servitude. That's where they started taking away the rights of the people, the private property, the ownership rights of private property. Okay, so they're saying you can't be a slave or held to involuntary servitude except as punishment for a crime. Where Ray and Claude go on life? Where did Ray and Claude go? Ray and Clyde. Where did they go? They went to a work camp in Mississippi. They had them working out there irrigating ditches and fields because they were convicted. Okay? And only shall exist within the United States and any place subject to their jurisdiction. If honestly received and fairly applied, this provision would have been enough to guard the rights of the colored race. Goodness gracious. Here go that word again. Color. Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, page 331. An appearance, a semblance, or simulacrum as distinguished from that which is real. A prima facie or apparent right, hence a deceptive appearance, a plausible, assumed exterior, concealing a lack of reality. Please do not call me colored. I don't assume a lack of reality. I don't assume an assumed exterior. I don't conceal a lack of reality. I'm here giving you the truth. I'm on every point of it. So I'm not colored, sir. Nor am I black, because black, according to science, means death. Black is the absence of light. If you don't know what to call me Moorish. Call me American. Call me Aboriginal. Call me indigenous. Call me native. Call me melanated. Call me Asiatic. But don't call me black. Don't call me Negro. Don't call me colored. Don't call me African American. Don't call me Afro-American. Don't call me Afrocentric. Okay? Thank you. So, in some states, it was attempted to be evaded by enactments cruel and oppressive in their nature, as that colored persons, oh man, if that's not legal fiction, I don't know what to tell you. Colored person, and a person has 10 derivatives of what the definition is in 28 U.S.C. 3002, section 10. Go look up the word person. Type in 28 U.S.C. 3002 and then put 10. And it's going to tell you the 10 variations of the definition of the word person. So they put those right next to each other. The word color is an adjective because it's describing something. And persons are a noun. So that colored persons were forbidden to appear in towns except in a menial capacity. Menial means like degrading, subsistent, substandard. A menial capacity. You ain't up here with us. You ain't the guys, bro. You a peon. Menial capacity. That they should reside on and cultivate the soil without being allowed to own it. So y'all just good enough to work our land, bro. Y'all are chattel, cattle, oxen, till the soil, labor and toil. But you can't own this. You can't own the land that you toil in. So they weren't permitted to give testimony in cases where a white man was a party. Yeah, he the only person who witnessed a white man kill somebody, but he can't even testify. They were excluded from performing particular kinds of business, profitable and reputable, and they were denied the right of suffrage. So, let's see. Let's see what's going on with that word suffrage. And this is what's going on with this Susan B. Anthony in this case. Well, I mean, excuse me, around her time, women's suffrage. Okay? So, suffrage, as not suffer, SUFFERAGE, but suffrage, SUFFRAGE. Suffrage, Black's Law Dictionary, page 1602. A vote, an act of voting, the right or privilege of casting a vote at public elections The last is the meaning of the term in such phrases as the extension of the suffrage, universal suffrage, voting. Excuse me, and let me correct myself. Susan B. Anthony was denied her right of suffrage. And so are these Negroes. To meet the difficulties arising from this stage of things, the 14th Amendment and the 15th Amendments were enacted. That's pretty convenient. So, let's see what the 14th Amendment, or let's see how it affects these newly emancipated Negroes. Who does it benefit for the 14th Amendment? Do you think it benefited you or the corporation who enacted these corporate amendments to their corporate constitution? The 14th Amendment creates and defines citizenship of the United States. Bam. There you go. The court said it for you. So now it should be concrete in your mind that there are two classes of citizens recognized in the Constitution. The Article 4, state citizens, and the 14th Amendment, United States citizens. And if the word United States is tricky for you, since you probably still think that they're talking about this soil that you're walking on, what we're going to do is see what the Hooven decision, which was a landmark case as well, Hooven and the Allison Company versus Evitt, U.S. Ohio. This is a United States Supreme Court case. Okay? And in this case, the term United States came up because the Hooven and Allison Company basically protested that they was bringing in supplies from, imports from Puerto Rico. Was that Puerto Rico? Well, wherever they brought it from, Puerto Rico. But don't hold me on that. I ain't looked at the case in a while. But anyways, they were bringing imports in from a possession of the United States, like Puerto Rico, Guam, the Pacific Trust territories. They belong to the United States, and they was contesting an import tax. So the court had to let them know, hey, what United States really means, bro. So the term United States may be used in any one of the several senses. Oh, damn. I mean, don't the United States mean the United States? No. So the first sense, it may be merely the name of a sovereign occupying the position analogous to that of other sovereigns in the family of nations. So if they talking about a sovereign, they talking about the de jure government. They couldn't be speaking about a de facto, because the de facto is in a corporate capacity and conducting business as a corporation. And when the government moves into the world of commerce, they abandon their sovereign capacity and immunity to be reduced to the pains of a mere corporation. So it may be merely the name of a sovereign occupying the position analogous to that of other sovereigns in the family of nations. 2, it may designate the territory over which the sovereignty of the United States extends. So what's the territory? And how does the sovereignty of the United States extend over it? So they're tricky, because if you don't have a clear comprehension of what you're looking at, how words are expressed, and start reading backwards, then you understand, well, the United States is a corporation that owns territories and insular possessions. So the sovereignty, which is the exclusive authority of this corporation, extends to those pieces of property that belong to it. And no rights can be conferred to the people who inhabit these territories, just like the people of Washington, D.C. You were born on federal territory. There is no state prison for D.C. They might send them over to Maryland or Virginia. But D.C. has the highest percentage of people in the federal prison system, the FBOP, the Federal Bureau of Prisons. It's only 200,000 odd people in the feds, and the highest percentage of them come or in our natives of Washington, D.C. D.C. is a federal territory. You have no right to carry a firearm, sir. You only have the privileges of that of a public person. So the United States, capital U, capital S, they didn't say United States of America. And if you go back to simple grammar in English, united means to bring together, combine, and that's not a proper noun. So it doesn't have to have a capital U in front of it because it's an adjective. It's describing something. United, the states are the people as a body of one. The states, lowercase s, United States. These are not proper nouns. Of, and then the only proper noun in that expression or that phrase, United States of America. America is this country, this soil, this continent we stand on. United States of America. The states, the body of people who are united by and under one constitution of the land of America. Not United States. When you hear United States, you better look at it because they telling you, here go 3 different ways that it can be used. So the second way, it may designate the territory over which the sovereignty of the United States extends. So I just explained to you what that means because I read it backwards. The United States is the corporation and the sovereignty, and they try to put that word in to throw you off, or they mean exclusive authority of this company extends to the territories, and they making you think that the territory is land, which it can be, but the territory is anything that that company owns. Start thinking of it just like that. It may be, and then number 3, it may be a collective name of states which are united by and under the Constitution. And this is Hooven and Allison Company versus Evatt. The citation to this authority is 324 U.S. 652. And this was in 1945. So, and the flat out fourth one, which is not here, is in 28 U.S.C. 3002 15A. And it says the United States means, hey, a federal corporation. So they went ahead and tacked it on. They let you know. They let you know. So the 14th Amendment creates and defines citizenship of the United States, their corporation, their jurisdiction. So how do you become a citizen of a corporation? It has long been contended and have been held by many learned authorities and never been judicially decided to the contrary, that there was no such thing as a citizen of the United States, except as that condition arose from citizenship of some state. So you can voluntarily elect to be a United States citizen. You can voluntarily elect to be a United States citizen because if you were born right now on your mother's couch and you didn't go into a hospital, who would know? You have no right to inform the government that your child was born. I mean, you don't have to. That's not a law. There's nothing saying that you have to come out the privacy of your home and bring your child to the public. So fresh out the womb, these nurses can stick needles into your children. The simple things that they're born with, the vitamin K deficiency and have my baby coming straight from the cosmos through the creative process of the universe and needs help from serums and needles. Did the great God of the universe error in creating me? Did he not give my body its own intelligence? I'm shocked and confused. Get that needle away from my child. Okay. So let's just say your child who was born in private, you couldn't get in school, you didn't have the time to homeschool them, and this child like 8 years old now, and you go up to take the child to the school, like, you got a birth certificate? You have a social security card? We can't take this child here. You have nothing to prove that this child has been registered with the public. That should let you know. Anything that you do, they ask for what? Birth certificate to identify the government's property. Social security card. Let us know you have an account. with the government, and we associate anything that you acquire with this account as property of the government as well, because you created a third-party interest in your private labor by registering with the public. So it had never been judicially decided to the contrary that there was no such thing as a citizen of the United States, except as that condition arose from a citizenship of some state. Condition. There was a condition to you being a United States citizen. No mode existed. It was said of obtaining a citizenship of the United States, except by first becoming a citizen of some state, lowercase s. This question is now rest. Let that rest. The 14th Amendment defines and declares who shall be citizens of the United States, who shall be citizens of this corporation. And to wit, I quote, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Why didn't it say that in the 4th Amendment about the state citizen? Because the term United States hadn't came along yet. That's why. So let's go back to this word citizen and let's see why the word citizen ought to be watched narrowly. Because according to Securities Investment Company versus the state, I believe this is Alabama, a corporation is a citizen of state under whose laws it is created and a non-resident of every other state. So they let you know that a fiction can be a citizen of the United States. I mean, well, that makes sense that a fiction with a corporation, a trust, an estate, a LLC, a fiction can be a citizen of another fiction. Well, they use the word citizen to replace instrumentality or subsidiary, because a corporation can't have citizens, but it can have subsidiaries. It can be an umbrella over other corporations. Is that not true? So the United States, according to 28 U.S.C. 3215A, is a federal corporation with what? Subsidiaries. So that means your company that you came to the government and asked permission, could you organize, is subject to them. So you work for the government by way of your LLC because they collect taxes off of it. They tax everything you do. Okay? So all persons born or naturalized in the United States. Now, how are you born in the United States? Well, you're born in the United States physically if you were born in Washington, D.C., because that is a territory of the United States. You were born in the United States if you were born in the Pacific Trust Territories, the Swaney Islands, the Canal Zone, Puerto Rico, Guam. You were born in the corporate United States if you were born on their property, which is that land that their corporation owns. Yes, you can be a citizen that way on a physical level, but to anybody born outside of that, in the contingent states, that the land and the people who we are that make up the state, we cannot be citizens of the United States unless we, since it's a corporation, how can we attain parity with this corporation? Have you been paying attention? Contract. So, what does that sound like? Huh? It sounds like color of citizenship to me. Hmm? That's what it sounds like to me. It is not a citizen within the meaning of the federal constitution declared citizens of each state entitled to privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states, or within the 14th Amendment prohibiting states from abridging privileges and immunities of citizens of the United States. Mm-hmm. Nor within the statute authorizing citizens of the United States to prosecute, appeal to Circuit Court of Appeals without prepaying costs. Okay, let's see. Citizens of this state within the state requiring foreign insurance companies. Okay, that's not for us. Okay, so a state cannot be a citizen, but a state and federal government each has citizens of its own. And the same person may be at the same time a citizen of the United States and a citizen of a state. So what Black's Law Dictionary is telling us is congruent to what's going on in Susan B. Anthony's case. Is it not? It says that you can be a citizen of the United States, the corporation, and a citizen of a state at the same time. So in Susan B. Anthony, we see that no mode existent. There was no such thing as a citizen of the United States, except as that condition arose from citizenship of a state. And it says right here, you can be a citizen of the state and the United States at the same time. So there's a distinct difference. They're letting you know that there's state citizenship and that there's United States citizenship. Well, I was born in the United States. Well, you probably was. If I were you, correct the status immediately and get the hell off them people's territory. So what are you going to do? Well, I live in Florida. I live in Missouri. I live in Illinois. I live in Texas. I live in Ohio. How did I become a United States citizen? Well, don't be upset because you love her dearly, but your mother, due to her ignorance of law, informed on you the day you was born and said, here, I have this private child here. I wish to register with the public. So you were born private. You're born private and you're brought out into the public. Your mother's doped up off epidural. She don't know if she signed. She signed the SS5. And the SS5 is what? A request for a social security card. That created the trust. Because why? Go look at my video. What's the trust? She transferred property. Simple. Oh, your kids are not property? Yeah, that's my biological property. If I didn't go through with the action of intercourse with this woman, this child would not be. So, if that didn't come from my biological body and I created another sentient being, a living human being, how is that not my biological property? So, let's keep going. The 14th Amendment defines and declares who should be citizens of the United States. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So we know they're talking about their corporate United States. The latter, remember former is the front. Latter, L-A-T-T-E-R, is the back. The latter qualification was intended to exclude the children of foreign representatives and the like. With this qualification, every person born in the United States or naturalized is declared to be a citizen of the United States and of the state wherein he resides. So it seems like they prioritize your United States citizenship over your state citizenship. So what can you do about that? You have to declare. You have to take control of your monopoly piece. Your monopoly piece is a United States citizen. Did it just not say a corporation can be a citizen? And if we look at the nature of a corporation, it's a fictitious entity that doesn't exist on this plane of physical manifestation because it's a piece of paper. So what else resembles the organization of a corporation, a LLC, a partnership, a trust, an estate? These all share the same likes, a fictitious person. So what makes you think that your monopoly piece, your public person, your all caps name, is not a citizen of the United States? Because it was created by and under the authority of what? Your corporate state, who is a what? A corporate subsidiary of the corporate United States. Well, didn't you just say state citizens were different? Yes, because we know how to invoke Article 3, the judicial side of the court. So yes, we're sharing the same courts as the legislative. But I know who I am and I know what status I walk in, so this was side of the court I'm invoking. Yes, I'm a state citizen and I'm private. You're a state citizen, you're a corporate state citizen. And that corporate state citizenship, you're a resident within. Not your body, but your birth certificate is a resident within their file cabinets. The registration of your automobile is a resident within their file cabinets. Yeah, so your public fiction resides in their records. The state of Babylon. So, after creating and defining the citizenship of the United States, the 14th Amendment provides that no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges and immunities of the citizens of the United States. So there goes the privileges and immunity clause for the public citizens. This clause was intended to be a protection, not to all our rights, but to our rights as citizens of the United States. So we need the rights per citizenship, per that status. Is this not coming back around full circle for you? I'm exercising rights per my private status. But if you do bring harm or cause loss to my public peace, my monopoly piece, my public person, me as the authorized representative for my public person can bring action with my public person. And my public person has privileges and immunities according to its status as a United States citizen. I have rights before everything, and then privileges and immunities as a state citizen, a private man. Okay? That is to rights existing or belonging to that conditional capacity. The expression citizen of a state used in the previous paragraph is carefully omitted here. So in Article 4, Section 2, the Constitution of the United States, it had been already provided that the citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. That was Article 4, Section 2, but that's before the 14th Amendment. The rights of the citizens of the states, the lowercase state, the people, of the rights of the citizens of the states and of the citizens of the United States are each guarded by these different distinct provisions. So they're different. So they're telling you the 14th Amendment is reserving rights for the public citizens, and that's over here. Well, you private. So Article 4, Section 2 is giving you the privileges and immunities of a state citizen, or recognizing your rights to privileges and immunities of a state citizen who's private and outside of the government. Public, private. Public and private, oil, water, they don't mix. They don't mesh, they don't blend, none of that. They two distinct different statuses. All right? So these rights are separate and distinct as held in the slaughterhouse cases. Okay? As held in the slaughterhouse cases. So the rights of the citizen of a state, the private people, the actual sovereign men and women, as such are not under consideration in the 14th Amendment. So they're saying my rights as a private man, you can't be crossing your public privileges and immunities clause from the 14th Amendment and try and apply it to me. Excuse me. Objection. I have nothing to do with the 14th Amendment, sir. And they stand as they did before the adoption of the 14th Amendment. And they fully guaranteed the rights of the citizens of the states have been subject to judicial decision on more than one occasion. So what does that infer? Let's read it backward. Judicial decision mean what? A court of record people enrolling themselves into the record, a jury of your peers, judicial, to decide the law, to judge the law. These are fundamental privileges and immunities belonging to rights of the citizens of all free governments, such as the right of what? Life, liberty, the right to acquire and possess property, to transact business, to pursue happiness in his own manner, subject to such restraint as the government may adjudge to be necessary for the general good. So, in Crandall versus Nevada, 73 U.S., a Supreme Court case, it's found a statement of some of the rights of a citizen of the United States, the company, to come to the seat of the government to assert any claim he may have upon the government, to transact any business he may have with it, and to seek its protection, and share its offices, to engage in administering its functions, and to have free access to its seaports, through which all operations of foreign commerce are conducted, to the sub-treasuries, the land offices, the revenue offices, and the courts. Another privilege of the citizens of the United States, the public people, these public officers, these public officials, is to demand the care and protection of the federal government. Go get your daddy. How am I going to demand the protection of a government I'm not subject to? How can I go in there and say I'm not subject to your rules, but I'm asking for your protection? Hey, ain't you a man? What money making Mitch say to dude and them who got robbed? Ain't you a motherfucking man? Huh? You let that man come up here and take your shit? Hey, you're my man. Y'all not good up here until y'all come back and bring me that man. Hey, bring me that man. Hey, yo, my man's this way. Harlem is this way. I'm not going to beg the government for nothing. I don't get WIC. I don't get benefits from the government. I don't have a public aid card. I'm not knocking nobody who does. But I know who I am. So I cannot accept the benefit or a privilege from the government, because what does that do? It alters my status. I abandon my capacity as a private state citizen if I come out and avail myself to public benefits and privileges. Huh? So as a public fiction, your monopoly piece, your monopoly piece has the right to the care and demand and protection of the federal government. They said over his life. I don't know who they was talking about. Liberty. So they give you a monopoly piece of gender by expression of the name, obviously. Liberty and property when on the high seas or within the jurisdiction of a foreign government. The right to be peaceably assemble and petition for redress of grievances and the privilege of a writ of habeas corpus. This is all for your public person. They letting you know that your monopoly piece has rights in the public realm. And our citizens guaranteed by the federal Constitution. The right of voting or the privilege of voting is just a right of privilege and right under the Constitution of the state and not under the Constitution of the United States. So they go on that about Miss Susan B. Anthony's case, but that parts us from her example, okay? Because we're sticking to the subject of this 14th Amendment and this Dred Scott case. And this Dred Scott case is what led us to the 14th Amendment, because in the beginning of the video, we had the Supreme Court tell us that a Negro cannot become a citizen. The Declaration of Independence does not include slaves as part of the people. The right and privileges conferred by the Constitution upon citizens do not apply to the Negro race. So, where's your government? Malcolm X went to the United Nations in an attempt to get reparations for black people. Okay? But to no avail. Amen? Who was black people? Where they flag at? Well, look at my flag, my Moorish flag. Where the black people flag at? What it look like? Where they land at? Where their municipalities at? Where they oil reserves? Where they pipelines? Where they railroads? Where they renewable energy sources? Where they wind farms? Where are these black people, bro? Hey man, we don't see you. Here go a book with all the families of the nations. We don't see black people in here, bro. We don't see Negroes, Africans, or colored people in here neither. So y'all go ahead and gonna have to get that together, bro, or y'all gonna have to associate yourself with someone. So you, as the private man, the state citizen, not subject to any government, then what does it apply? That you are your own government. And each individual of the same feather are the government as well. So when our men get out of line, the other men of the community reprove that man. We reprove his faults. We don't want you to go to jail, my brother, but you're going to have to stop disrespecting these women around here. Or the sword of justice will swing both ways. We exercise in love, true peace, freedom, and justice. So, in your ways that act outside of our law, if that's how you display or show your love, we're going to give you this truth. And we're going to free you and give you peace by bringing this justice on you. Justice is brutal. Oh, because we the men, we can't deal with this man. Oh, he's going to get dealt with. Because guess what? We're the state. Me and other nationals, we are the state. We are the justice. We are the government. Yes, we are the law. And what is the law? The law is the land, the air, and the water. The law is the earth. The law is the universe. The law is the divine. The law is you. You are the law because you bring the law with your being. I am the law. I'm existing within the law, the mechanical universe, the ethers. I'm not a 14th Amendment citizen. I come in my proper person. I'm not a 14th Amendment citizen. I come in my proper person. And it's so much more case law that comes with, you deciding to elect to come out to the public, because you reserve certain rights in the private. But when you come out in the public, you waive certain rights that you would have otherwise retained had you remained in the private. Right? So, I mean, maybe you need to twist a little vine. Take an inhale or two. Then release your mind. So, if I can free my mind, I can free my body. What Morpheus tell Neo? You were born into a prison you can't see, smell, or touch. Neo like, what? What? A prison of the mind, Neo. A prison of the mind, Neo. That's sick. If I can scare you, you will check yourself. If I can make you think that you're going to burn for eternity, you will check yourself. If I can make you think that a physical man, my brother Jesus, who walked the earth with me, is going to come part the sky on a glowing chariot to get somebody a ride to heaven, which flesh may not enter into the kingdom of heaven. I mean, I can check you. If I can scare you into imagining what fire and brimstone smells like, and it being 3-4 million times hotter than the sun, and hellfire you're gonna burn forever, I can check you. Well, you know, according to the more science temple, which may not be true to someone else, but I don't bash religion. I don't bash the church. I don't bash Islam. I don't bash anyone, because every man must worship under his own vine and fig tree. All praises be. As long as you know who the top shotter is, I'm cool with whatever you represent. As long as you know. Because the only sin to me, according to the gospel of Turner Lamont L., is believing that you separate from your creator. Believing that you separate from your creator. If I were you, I wouldn't believe that. That good old sword of Damocles. That's that sword you see on them turbans and them fezzes. You see what I'm saying? And it represented justice. You see that pentagram behind me? It represents the 5 highest principles known to man. Not a 14th Amendment citizen. The man, the law, the state, the private people, not the public person, the monopoly piece that you bend kind into believing is you. Would you like to be a secure party creditor? Would you like to say the word national? I love saying it. Bro, I'm a national. You think the Nationals ain't real? What's the name of DC baseball team, man? What's the name of Washington, DC baseball team? Come on, come on. Yeah, the Nationals. What you think they talking about? I'm a national. That feel good to say that, because I got something to stand for. I got something to adhere myself to, because it's for the greater cause of the greater good of the bigger picture. So we're moving into that. And none of this is meant or construed to be legal advice. It's for entertainment, educational, and informational purposes only. All right? So if you found any of this enlightening, informational, well needed, and you decide to exercise your rights, do so at your own discretion. But don't be scared. You better go forth with the authority of the Most High when you demonstrate. Because guess what? They feel it. They know it. If you come in here and you act like you don't know what you're doing, yeah, they gonna roll you. They gonna beat you straight out of there. You coming into the Lions Den playing, bro. Don't come here all submissive and come on, man. But you do and have to be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. Speak in an intelligent tone and get a favorable reply. Honest to the prophet, no bedraw me. Honest to the prophet Muhammad. Praises to the Most High. Praises to the Most High. I dare you to have an attitude of gratitude. I dare you to. Watch how things lighten up. Watch how you realize you not a 14th Amendment citizen. Watch how you realize that you a man on the land. Watch how you realize it. Watch how you realize it. Click and subscribe. Click and subscribe. If this was needed, If it may be useful for you in a certain situation, click and subscribe. And we're going to represent this. The 5 highest principles. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. We're going to hold that dear to our heart. Peace to all my American nationals, and Islam to the Muslim community. You draw what I'm saying? And Islam to the Moors, and peace